importance of goal attainment and accomplishing goals. Because the most important thing I have found from goal accomplishment is that when I accomplish my goals, whether they be the short or long-term goals, it provides me a sense of completion. It gives me a sense of understanding that I've accomplished something that I put together. In some ways, it allows me to almost pat myself on the back or congratulate myself for following through. In goal attainment, accomplishments and achieving our accomplishments and realizing that can be the essence for that propels us to move forward to greater goals and objectives. The completion of goals provides this completion gratification. I become grateful to realize that the work I've done was meaningful and it was focused, and that I was able to achieve a goal, an objective, and have it done by a certain deadline date. The self-gratification was important to me as it helped me to stay motivated. Also, it can be gratification from others when you're working with a team or in an organization and you collectively complete your goal and you attain goals that were perhaps stretch goals or just the goals that were placed upon you by other organizational leaders for work to be done. The importance of goal attainment reflects progress. Progress is important. A lot of people don't see progress, whether it be in their health or in their work. And so by completing goals, even if they're small goals, as I talked about incremental gains, is that when you complete small steps of progress, at the time they're happening, you get that sense of accomplishment and gratification that the work you're doing is focused and it's purposeful because you're the one who had set that goal for you. If it's your own goal or if it's an organizational goal, you know you're helping the organization to achieve perhaps its mission and therefore living its vision. So goal attainment helps you go through a step-by-step process. Plus, I know if I complete short-term goals, they collectively add up to be those long-term goals. For me and for others, completing goals is a sense of giving life meaning. Because if I have a goal that I want to do, whether it used to be when I ran a marathon or whether I wanted to focus on a certain part of my career to get advanced, it gave meaning to my life because I could see these accomplishments. And because of that, I felt gratification from my progress, and it helped to instill and keep me motivated. As I talked in the lesson about leadership, I believe that I am self-motivated, and so therefore I'm not looking for others to motivate me, but when I see that I can accomplish things that perhaps maybe were not easy to see at one time or to even envision, this gratification and seeing the progress gave meaning to me and the things that I was doing. So goal attainment is critical. And I think if you look at your life, you've had a lot of goal attainment, whether it be as a baby, just trying to crawl, just trying to grab onto something while you were in a baby bed and you were trying to stand up, and then maybe on the carpet you were grabbing onto something to stand up, and then as you were able to start walking, then you started to learn how to run a little bit, and from there maybe perhaps you decided you wanted to ride a bicycle, so you rode a tricycle, and after a while you decided, or your parents put you on a bigger bike with training wheels. Eventually you wanted to ride without those training wheels, and you were able to ride without those training wheels. Notice how there were accomplishments along the way. You felt good and your parents felt good when you were able to go from crawling to walking to running to riding a bicycle. You saw progress in how you were able to move yourself and how you were able to move your body to be able to make it happen. And it gave some sort of meaning to you, as it did your family members. So goal attainment can be very important, whether it just be at a personal level or at a work situation. Goal attainment provides the opportunity for clarity. It provides clarity because when you have a goal set and the objectives put together and initiatives that have to be done, it gives you the path, if you will, to have a purpose to complete. So clarity is probably one of the most important things that come from having focus through goals. That purposeful direction, if you know that you want to attain a certain goal 12 months from now, then you know perhaps what you need to do every quarter to make some progress, and every month, and then maybe even every week, perhaps even every day. But if you look at one of the areas for self-improvement out of the leadership section, perhaps if you wanted to become more humble in the next 12 months, you would have the opportunity to create some goals and objectives around how you could become more humble in the next 12 months. And from that, you would have this purposeful direction because you would be working towards something. Therefore, again, you become productive and not so much just busy. When you're productive, you're accomplishing smaller goals. You're doing that incremental gains. You're seeing how doing something today and tomorrow collectively adds up over time. I know when I used to run, and I used to start out running races or just jogging even, jogging 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles. Then I would run a 10K race, a 10-kilometer race, then maybe something longer. Eventually, I got to the point where I was able to run a marathon. It certainly kept me focused on something I wanted to accomplish. And I'll give you some examples of that later when I talk about the tool that I'll share in this program, because you can use that tool for both personal and professional development and goal attainment. But the idea of being focused keeps people productive. When they're productive, then they get things done. They become far more successful than they would if they're just going through everyday life, just being busy. Putting ideas into action is exactly what goal attainment is about. When you start to manage your work and your days perhaps through goals, then you're literally taking your ideas, perhaps it's that vision. That vision then allows for that mission to happen. And that mission is how you and others will need to do things to see that vision come to life. So it helps take our ideas and puts them into actions. Helps take that vision and give us our mission. Because once we have the mission, then we can create our goals to be able to make sure that that mission is accomplished. Incremental gains. It's about the results. It's about short-term results and long-term results. Results. When we can measure results and we can see it on a regular basis, how the results collectively add up over time, it's that time that we see the small gains that keeps us directed towards moving forward. I remember when I was in the military, I was able to get promoted from what's known as the enlisted level number 1 to number 2 to number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, that took me 13 years. But over that period of time, I was able to see through incremental gains how I was building a career. And while it didn't happen overnight, and it did take 13 years, it was 13 years well spent because I was developing not only a career, but a reputation. And to a certain extent, I was also able to create a legacy through the work that I did when I started training other sailors and made an impact in certain areas that was within my job scope and responsibility. The results allows for us to reflect. These reflections go back to the first point where I talked about it in the leadership lesson about self-reflecting, self-assessing, self-correcting. Because when we look at the results, we can see perhaps if we had a goal for 12 months from today, we could reflect back and see, did we achieve our goal? If we did, why? What was successful? If we did not, we can reflect back and look and say, what happened? What could we do better next time? What could we learn from that year? So reflection is an opportunity for us as leaders and as people to learn from the past. And so reflections are a critical, important point of goal setting because it's inherent within goal setting, because if you're going to set a goal, you're going to sooner or later measure it to see what happened. There's a program that's called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycles. Some people call it the Shewhart cycle. And it's set on creating a plan. You do that plan. After a certain period of time of doing it, then you check on it, and then you're really reflecting upon that. And from that outcome, then you act upon it to either make the plan better, leave it the same, depending on what the outcome was in the check phase. So under Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, which is probably one of the most fundamental management tools in the quality industry, is that reflecting is inherent in that process, just as it is in looking back at any goal and finding out how did we do. The results, it's about accomplishments. Through results, we get to see what our accomplishments were. The incremental gains will give us some sort of progress along the way. The reflections will give us the opportunity to look back and see what happened. And the accomplishments will let us know that, yes, we were able to achieve our goals, or maybe not achieve our goals, but we maybe made small steps along the way. It's also possible that goals are set at too high a level, which after however long a period of time was given to it, it may not be enough time to be able to create the goal, or the goal was out of touch in the sense that it wasn't realistic. So a goal is not something that has to be hard cast in stone, that there's no way to be able to say it's about good or bad. We put goals together to help us get somewhere and help us move forward, keep our focus on work. And when we create a certain level of results through our work, it sets an example for others. When I used to look back at some of my parents and their friends, and I looked back at people around me, perhaps it was even grandfathers or uncles and aunts, I was able to see an example in them because of what they were able to achieve in their lifetime. When you're setting goals and you're attaining them, you're setting an example for others on how they can be better at who they are and who they're becoming. Because when people are focused on goals, they're getting more done. As a leader, it's great to set an example for other people. It's critical, I believe, that parents take this thought here and consider it yet to another level, and consider what is the example you're setting for your children, perhaps even for your spouse. Are you setting results-focused examples so that things are getting done on a regular basis, or are you just saying, we'll worry about it when we worry about it? Are you having great vacations? I know one family that once they started writing their goals down and they defined literally the type of vacation they wanted, and they started putting goals and objectives to creating all the things that they wanted to have happen in 6 months before that vacation. By the time the vacation day got there, they were ready. They had all the money they needed to go have a good time. They had everything planned, and they had probably the most successful vacation of their lives. So the idea being is that by setting goals, you will be able to set a great example for others. From the personal, family, and work perspectives, goal attainment can provide you the opportunity to live a purposeful life. When you set your goals to support your mission and your vision, how could you not live a more purposeful life? Because you're the one who's setting these goals and objectives. So as you set goals and objectives for what you want to accomplish in your life, you are going to be able to live a more purposeful life. And therefore, you're going to set that great example, again, for your family, for yourself, of course. And as it works to your advantage in the workplace, you'll also set a great example there. Now, if you really want to leave a legacy, this is where goal attainment comes in. I don't know what your goals are for your personal life, but if you want to accomplish something more, like perhaps you want to earn a master's or a doctorate degree because nobody in your family has ever had one before, and you want to leave a legacy showing other people that if you can do it, they can follow on. What a great opportunity to put your goals and objectives together to start on that education. Perhaps you want to be the first person in your family to own your own business, and you want to then leave that business for your children or for somebody else. You would be leaving a legacy. So if you want to start your own business and then build a successful business, you would be able to do that by looking at goals, putting them in place, and then following them through. When you're able to do goal attainment and achieve your own goals, you're going to be able to help others, because people will come to you. They'll see you being far more successful, and they're going to want to know how. How are you able to do that? Because they want to learn from you. They want to emulate you, because if you can do it, you can be the guiding light for others. So particularly in your personal and your family life, by setting goals and being totally focused on what you want will help others do the same. I encourage you all to define exactly at what age you want to retire at, and what does that look like for you. Decide now that even if it's 20 years from today, how much money you think you're going to need on an annual basis. Where do you want to live? How comfortable do you want to live? Once you start really defining those, aspects of what you want to have your retirement life be like, then you could start working backwards from that time to now and start putting things in place. You can start writing your goals. You can start creating some objectives. You can start looking at some time frames. If you know you need a certain amount of money in the bank 15 or 20 years from now, you can use your goals to start looking at that 15 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, and start to see that over time you're going to accumulate the savings that you'll need later. Plan your work, then work your plan. This is a popular saying. There's also a saying that goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. Again, I read books by the most successful people or those written about the most successful people. I've talked with a lot of people. And the successful people, without a doubt, have some sort of plan. Some of them look at it daily, some of them look at it weekly, some of it monthly. Every good organization that I know that's also successful does it at least annually, and they also may do it when something happens in their environment between that annual time. In most cases, businesses are broken up and measured by quarterly reports because sometimes it's too hard to see a whole year, but we can manage one quarter at a time. But if an organization has a yearly goal, they break it down into quarters so they can measure it along the way. So that at the first 3 months they can measure it again at 6 months and 9 months. Because you don't want to wait 12 months to find out whether you're anywhere near achieving your goal or not. That would be poor process planning and follow through. So what I want to talk about now is the vehicle which I created, which is called the Success Scorecard Tracking System. And I use this, and I'll build it here and show it to you exactly what it's about and how it can be used. I've had great success with this with my clients. I've had success with my coaching clients, individuals, and even students. I have found a tool that helps people achieve their goals. As I started looking at other programs similar to this, I found a couple things that were either missing or weren't aligned well to the method that I found to be successful. There are many great tools out there for you to use your strategies and put them into play. This one is what I use, and it's brought me success, so I want to share it with you, and perhaps it'll help you as well. So the first thing in the scorecard tracking system is to look at your strategic area. What category or broad themes do you want to address, whether it be in your personal life or in your professional life? Perhaps in your personal life, it's your health. Perhaps in your personal life, it's become more humble based on the leadership self-assessment you took in lesson number 2 in this program. Perhaps you're an organization and you want to improve customer service, or you want to reduce perhaps cycle time because it's costing too much money. So you can look at any type of strategic area you want to look at. It could be in finance, it could be in employee development, it could be in personal health. Then once you have that, then you create an objective. What outcomes do you want to accomplish? You may have more than one, or it may just be one. It could be to be more healthy. It could be to run a marathon. It could be to reduce employee turnover by 10%. It could be to increase customer satisfaction by 10%. You get to choose the objective of what you want. One of my objectives was when I was younger, I wanted to run a marathon. And so that objective worked for me. You need to have the next part measurable. The goal. Just recreate your goals. What specific goal will be measured to track success that you're going to move towards on? A measurable goal. When I wanted to run a marathon, the measurement was 26.2 miles. There is an actual measurable goal. I could also have the date on when I wanted to do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But as you start to look at creating yourself goals, you first want to define that strategic area, objective, and measurable goals. Here's an example. I put 3 of them here. I'm going to use this as I follow through in the next few slides. So the strategic area, let's just say in the workplace, it's customer relations or processes. If it's your personal health, it's to increase your personal health in this example. So for the first one, customer relations, the objective could be to increase customer satisfaction. That's just the objective. Increase customer satisfaction. Here we haven't done anything yet. We haven't measured anything with it yet. We're just saying what the objective is, to increase customer satisfaction. Or in the case of a process, it could be to reduce cycle time. Or if I wanted to increase my personal health, I would look at perhaps here, run the marathon. Then as we get into the measurable goal, if we wanted to improve customer relations by increasing customer satisfaction, the goal here is indicated at between 5 to 20%. That's the decision that says, you know what, if we achieve between 5 and 20%, we'll be happy. If it's reduced time, it could be to reduce cycle time by 7%. Of course, we'd have to have some measurements in place first to know what it is. So that would be a given that has to happen first. In the case of the first situations here with customer relations and processes, we'd have to know what customer satisfaction levels are and scores are today to know what we'd want to increase them by. Same thing with cycle time. If we just said decrease 7%, that would not help us here. First, there would be some homework done to understand what the cycle time is at the moment. In the case of the running of the marathon, it's to run 26.2 miles without stopping. Notice how it's a little bit more specific. It's not just complete 26.2 miles. Most people can walk 26.2 miles. It may take them a long time, but they could do that. They could break it up into doing 5 miles a day. But the reality is what they want to be able to do is run a marathon without stopping. So you see, here's the goal. It gets a little bit more specific, and that's what we want. We want specific, measurable goals. And they should be clear as well. So I know each one of these, in my view, are very clear. Now, increase 5 to 20% may seem broad, but it's still specific, and it's measurable, and it's clear. The next step we want to talk about is the deadline dates. You have to have deadline dates for your goals. When do you achieve the measurable goal? When do you want your goals achieved? For example, do you want to run a marathon tomorrow? Do you want to run a marathon next week? Do you want to reduce cycle time and improve customer satisfaction in 1 month, in 6 months, in 12 months? It depends on the situation, but you have to give a deadline date because it has to be measurable. We also have to be able to measure the dates. The initiatives, this is very important. Many people get the first 3 parts, but they fail to do this to the extent that's needed to help them. What specific steps will help you achieve your goal? What do you have to do to make that goal happen? I'll give a couple examples again. Now I'm taking the scorecard, if you will, and I move the areas we talked about to the left and put them in a little bit of a darker color background. So now I want to look at the date. If you want to increase customer satisfaction by 5 to 20%, might want to do it here. You set a deadline date of December 31st, 2014. At the time I'm creating this program, it's December 2013. So it's actually a 12-month period. Same thing with if you wanted to reduce cycle time, the date again is about 12 months out. That was when it was decided. For increasing one's personal health to run a marathon, the time frame is October 10th, 2014, because that's when there is a marathon in the city in which I live. So that's the deadline of that marathon. Now I could pick a marathon at any other date, but this gives me, in the situation based on when I'm recording this program, it gives me 10 months to be able to focus on, to be able to move forward. So now the initiatives. For somebody to increase customer satisfaction, first they have to baseline customer satisfaction. They may have to do a survey now first to find out what it is. They may already know it, but if they don't, they want to baseline it and find out where they're at. One of the initiatives to increase customer satisfaction is they might have to do employee training. They might have to help the employees better understand how to give superior customer service and how to delight customers. And they may have to work on changing the employees' perspectives if they're not positive about dealing with employees as well as the customers that are coming in. So they may need to work on the organizational culture to create greater levels of trust and respect so that the employees will work together and therefore help the customers as they come in or as they're dealing with them on the phone or through emails. In the case of the processes, to be able to decrease by 7%, they may need to assign process ownership to somebody. Maybe it's a department head, maybe it's a certain employee who is responsible for individual processes. So they want to assign process ownership so that that person can be the point of contact in an organization to focus on each process. They may actually have to do a step called process mapping, where they have to lay out the process in a flowchart situation where they start looking at how is a process actually run, where are the bottlenecks, or where are things getting held up. The flowchart allows us to see a process in a pictorial diagram. In the case of running a marathon, if I'm going to start running a marathon and I'm not eating healthy, I may need to eat healthy, and I need to start exercising. Perhaps maybe start exercising more if I am exercising already. I may have to define those a little bit more, but I know the initiatives that if I'm not exercising much now, I'm going to have to start doing something if I want to run a marathon in about 10 months. And I know that initiatives of eating healthy is going to contribute to my goal of running a marathon, because if I don't eat healthy, it's going to be counteractive to what I'm doing, or incongruent in what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm doing. So as you can see, now we're starting to see the scorecard come together. As you can see, the strategic area or strategy area, the objectives, the measurable goal, the dates and initiatives. But that's not it. There's two more items which are critical. And the reason why I actually created this, what I call a success scorecard tracking system, is for these last two items, because I don't see them in many of the other tools that are available out there. And even in the workplace or at home, I don't see people even talking about it. And therefore, I think that contributes much to people not achieving the goals they set out for themselves. So what are these two areas? First one is accountability. Who is responsible for achieving this goal in a specific time period? Accountability is important, particularly in an organization where people delegate responsibility to others to be able to complete work. But somebody's got to be accountable, whether it be a supervisor or the CEO or president of a company, or if it's your own health, somebody has to be held accountable. In most cases for your health, it would be you. Or for me, if I wanted to run a marathon, I probably need to be accountable. But in an organization where there's more people, or in a family where you're going to do things together and it's goals that have to happen, somebody needs to be accountable and perhaps oversee what is going on a regular basis. And then, whose help is needed in order to accomplish the goal? Between these two, I find that many people do not do these steps to the fullest. A lot of times, even in my own personal life, while I may be accountable, I need help from other people to achieve my goals. As I mentioned in part one of this program, my vision, or at least one of them, is to train and educate 1 million people by the year 2020. I started this in the year 2010, so I have given myself 10 years to train and educate 1 million people. By you listening to this program, you are one of those. Thank you very much. But I also need help from other people. And so I need help from my colleagues and my friends to help extend my reach. I need people who can help me develop my website and the tools that I have to go out to other people. I need people who can do publicity for me and PR, public relations work for me to get me greater exposure. So you see, there's a lot of help that I need to just achieve my one goal, let alone an organization who may have many more goals. So now if we put the whole program together in what's called the Success Scorecard Tracking System, we see in the case of customer relations in an organization, if this is a corporate organization or a business, perhaps that's not even a corporate entity, accountable person for increasing customer relations might be the vice president. In the process improvement, it could be perhaps all the directors, because all the directors may have some ownership in a process. If it's a process about shipping, many more than just one or two people may have something to do with the process. So they need directors to work together. In the case of my personal health, to increase it, to be able to run that marathon without stopping, I'm accountable. I'm accountable for everything that needs to happen. I'm the one who's got to be accountable for starting to exercise, to eat healthy, and to even buying running clothes, making sure I have the right clothes as another initiative. So here the accountable factor allows somebody to be assigned accountability for what needs to happen and the help that's needed. In the case of customer relations, you would need the help of all the employees, not just some of them, because every employee has something to do with improving customer relations. Even a janitor in an organization has the opportunity to contribute to customer satisfaction when people come and go through the building. Customers, You may actually have to train your customers on how to work with you better, perhaps on how to use a phone system if they're calling in, how to best move from the front door into the organization to the right people who they can talk to address their concerns if they have concerns, or to place orders. So sometimes customers have to be trained as well. In the case of processes, to reduce the cycle time, they may have to have an organizational consultant come in. Oftentimes my work is to go into an organization and look at a process and help them look on how they can make the process more efficient and effective by looking at how to find problems within the processes, how to find out what's going on that's not supposed to be going on inside the actual process itself. And then I may need help from the process owners, or the organization may need help from the process owners. Once they have the process ownership assigned, they need help from those process owners to be able to take the responsibility and then to manage the whole process of improving the system, so that overall the organization becomes far more optimized and achieves higher levels of performance excellence. In the case of the marathon, if I wanted to run that 26.2 miles without stopping, I would need help from my family and friends. From my family, I may need their help to make sure that I'm eating better in regards to making sure I have enough protein and carbohydrates in my diets. It's not fatty, not too many soft drinks. That on a regular basis, they're also supportive. When I feel a little tired, they encourage me. Maybe they go run with me, or they ride a bicycle alongside of me. I also need help from my friends to understand that sometimes I'm going to need to be running and I don't have time to go out, perhaps in some evenings too late, and socialize when I have to get up early the next morning and run 6, 12 or more miles as far as my training. So you can see, once we look and we put this whole package together, we have now the opportunity to take any of your goals, create some objectives, measure them so we know exactly what you want to do. When I work with clients, when I work with my coaching clients, this is literally what I do with them. I help them to improve on this. So in case you want to improve your being humble based on the leadership self-assessment in the second lesson, you could put that into here and you could give it some sort of goal. If you graded yourself at a 3, perhaps the movement would be 10% or 20% a year from now. Then you'd look at what you need to do to be more humble. Maybe to be more humble, you need to be a better listener. To be a better listener, you have to be more focused. So you can say that you're accountable, and you may need help from other people. If you're working with me, then you need help from me also. But you may also need help from your family and your friends, or from your coworkers to help give you feedbacks when they see that you're doing better, to help move you along and give you that sense of accomplishment. This success scorecard tracking system I've used with many people in many countries as well as organizations.